Hello, welcome to Search for Sean, and this is another Chat with Sean episode, so really looking forward to this. I've got a great guest, as you'll soon find out. First of all, the usual admin stuff, get some things out of the way. So yeah, I've just launched a brand new survey for all SEOs. So it's quite a quick one. I'm giving away out to three £20 Amazon vouchers to say thank you. And obviously you'll be featured on a video that I'll do on here from it. And also on my brand new website, I'll do a blog covering all the findings from the survey. It's just generally what's going on, what you're doing at the moment, what have you changed according to what's been going on and that kind of thing. Just really find out what you're getting up to and what tools you're using, that kind of thing. So yeah, if you're an SEO, there'll be a link in the description. Go and fill that out, and that'd be really helpful. And like I say, you might win a prize. And then secondly, last week, I think it was last week, I can't even keep up, but we had a chat with Matt Pike, and we discussed everything mainly around agency level, but how he's integrating AI and how he's hiring for the agency, what they're looking for, and kind of what's next in the world of agencies in terms of what's going on in search and digital marketing generally. So yeah, interesting one. Again, link will be in the description, so do go and check that out. And yeah, and you can see all the other Chat with Sean episodes that have been some really great ones in the past. So yeah, let's get on to it, and we can then crack onto the topic. So today's great guest is Lois Neville, who's a freelance SEO copywriter and has worked in this area for 5 years. So really knows the stuff, and yeah, I'm really excited to get you on the channel, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here too.
Yeah, so I think today mainly be focused around the freelance side of it, because I feel, especially with the environment that
Mm.
we're in, and it's probably going to get worse. I think a lot of people will be looking at that option,
Yeah,
maybe forced to look at that option. So I know a lot of people have already taken the plunge
yeah,
and done it as well. So, obviously you work in copywriting, but it can, it still can be relevant for a lot of people. So I guess,
yeah.
because I'm interested in this generally, what does a normal, and it might not be a normal, but what does a normal day in the life of a freelance SEO copywriter look like?
Sure. It's great. It sounds like such a sort of like obvious answer, but it varies. um, a lot. So I personally like to work on a month by month basis. So I like to plan what projects I have, whether that's retainer work or whether I'm taking on new projects the month before, and then plan my month out from that. And then sort of dedicate allotted time to specific clients, on a sort of on a project basis. So and usually start my day like most people checking my emails. And then I like to sort of kind of schedule my work the month before, so I sort of know what I'm going to be doing on a daily basis. And that can be anything from working uh, on a single client on for a single project, or breaking a project up. So be working on different projects with different clients uh, on particular days, depending on what it is that I have to do. I think especially with freelance copywriting, the types of projects that you have can vary significantly in scope and length. So there's no specific way that you can sort of organize work when you are freelancing. You need to kind of do it on a sort of like a rolling basis, depending on what it is that you have to do. And I like to sort of spend some of my time working outside of my desk at home, and then some of my time working in here, making sure that I have a range of environments that I'm working in to kind of help me focus. But yeah, it's a bit of a kind of a vague, amorphous response to that, because it really depends on what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah, I thought that would be the case, to be honest, but I just thought, but in terms of like, say, you you are thinking to go freelance, you go freelance, you've got 0 clients. eh, one, should you do that? Or should you like start feeding around for clients before you make the move? So you've got something there, or you know, but say you don't, how do you go around sort of building that client pool?
I
So you've got work.
Yeah, of course. I would, if you're interested in going freelance, I would really put the feelers out beforehand. Um, and I think it's a lot harder to kind of jump in like in the deep end, like straight from zero. Um, but that what is already, like, great is that the network that you already have built up, and that's sort of where I started, is that, when I went freelance, I already had, like, connections, and then I continued to build up those connections and my network as I've been going, and that's probably, like, been the most valuable thing, about getting new clients is referrals and people kinda, like, seeing you come up in specific spaces, I think it is really valuable. So, yeah, so, like, starting to put the feelers out and just learning more before you take the plunge. It's, I'm personally a big fan of freelancing, um, but it does come with some, like, some risk. So, yeah, so kinda feeling it out, seeing what opportunities are there, and whether those are opportunities that you want to do as well. I think one of the really exciting opportunities that comes with freelancing is that you can focus on what it is that you really want to do, and that can you can like really narrow down on that. And so you have this opportunity of just kind of seeing what feels right.
I think what is, and I'm kind of throwing you curveballs here, but in today's economy, because the way, you know, people letting people go, people reducing their marketing teams and their budgets and stuff because of, do you think, and again, this could be it could be varied, but depending on industries and sectors and stuff. But do you think people will more or less go with freelancers in the future? Um, because of the way that things are going, or do you think, yeah, do you think they're gonna maybe
I
ask for them more?
Yeah, I think there could be a big possibility. I think it sort of depends on what industries that you're working in. I think with current global events, keep that vague, um, that is having a big impact on business as a whole, especially small businesses. So I think that maybe more freelance opportunities will come with larger businesses or businesses that have already got quite a significant amount of funding behind them, because things are shaking up quite dramatically. And I think also we're still feeling the effects post COVID of people kind of like taking their career more into their own hands and like becoming self-employed. And there is, I think, more than ever, like a bigger pool of freelancers than there were before, meaning that um, competition is really high at the moment. So I think there's an element of, there could be more freelance opportunity from certain businesses, but the competition is getting much higher, similar to what it is for like employed and salaried positions at the moment. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
No, I agree. I think with the mix of COVID, with the economy situation across the world, with AI now coming into play, that it's meant that some very good people, even they've changed their mentality. Like you say, they liked the way it was
Mm.
in that kind of working from home and that kind of environment. And also they've even been forced or, sacked from their jobs. And there's some very talented people out there, but like you say, the pool of actual jobs has got smaller and smaller. So there's like very talented people out there that have got no option but to freelance, yeah, in a way. So yeah, I think you're right. And I think, um, as you mentioned, the more you can kind of find your niche, the more chance you got of success, I think, because if you're very broad, there's going to be lots of people going
Yeah,
after.
I think that's yeah, really pertinent because when I first started, I started far broader in the services that I'd offered, because I still went freelance just at the start of the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, my client pipeline just disappeared. And so I was like, okay, I guess I better build my business up then. And it was through that process and like working on different projects that I was able to niche down into copywriting because I realized that was the thing that I actually enjoyed the most and something that was coming up in projects that I happened to be working on. So I think if you already know what it is that you want to niche in and know what it is that you enjoy as well, like I think uh it's important, I think, especially when you're freelancing because you need that self-motivation. It's really critical to get stuff done because you are the one who's telling you to get stuff done. So you need to make sure that what it is that you're enjoy doing is what it is that you enjoy. Um, so yeah, yeah.
100%. I was just going to say exactly the same with running a YouTube channel,
Mhm.
because I started off quite broad, and then I'm quickly realizing actually the things that one, I'm enjoying more than others, and two, um, it focus on certain areas have probably got more chance of getting me seen on the YouTube algorithms.
Yeah,
Niching down into certain categories is actually probably a lot a better strategy than just going
exactly.
too broad on a topic. And yeah, you got to enjoy it. So like you say, you got to motivate yourself. So you can't be bothered making the video. Uh,
Yeah.
then no one else is going to do. Like,
I
so
did it's just, don't you don't have to offer services that you don't want to offer. And I think that's a big learning of mine is that you don't have to be all things to all clients. And in fact, your job is going to be a lot easier and they're going to be a lot more satisfied with the deliverables if you just focus on what it is that you want to do. And I think that can be more tricky if you're starting in a position that you are maybe if you're employed and you're going to like jump into like you're thinking about freelancing and your employed title means that you're sort of like doing so many different things. And it might be if you're in that position that you don't start off niching down straight away. And you just figure out through getting clients and sort of like seeing what the different like freelance workflows for you work with. And then it's from then that you can figure out actually, this is what I want to specialize in. This is what I'm most interested in. This is what I feel like I can deliver the best in. Um, so it's also something that you don't need to figure out straight away, because I think that can be a bit of a, oh God, what do I do? It doesn't have to be an immediate thing.
Yeah, and it changes as well, doesn't it? Because you might find your niche, and then actually things change in the market that doesn't become so important. But then you start liking something else that's coming up trendy, and
Yeah.
you find you're good at that, so you can go. Like you say, it's not always. Yeah, it takes time. And it turns out, I guess you would agree that obviously you need to have that foundation of experience and network and community to then be able to dive into freelance. You couldn't just do it from day zero with no experience.
So I trained as an in-house SEO before I went freelance, and so already sort of kind of had, even though the industry has changed so much in 5 years, like the technology is so different. Um, but having that basis has really helped. And I think in also just for prospective clients being like, oh, you know, she has some technical training. Um, and then I think that it's that, and it's also like during like networking communities. This is where I'm going to do a little bit of a shout out to the Digital Marketing Union, known as the DMU, and Women in Tech SEO. They are two online marketing communities that I'm part of that have been pretty instrumental in my freelance journey. And it's spaces like that that can really help your freelance career in terms of like genuine places to network and like um meet people in an authentic way. Um and kind of like learn from other people, and like build your confidence through that. So I would, for any prospective freelancers out there, I think joining like dedicated communities that are focused and maybe are on the smaller, medium to smaller side, can really make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, women in tech is fantastic. I get the emails, and I think, and I might be wrong, but I think that's how I discovered yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, it's an absolutely fabulous community, and yeah, I think it's also, I think, approaching networking, because I think networking kind of has this sort of feeling around it, or kind of like vibe around it, that it's a bit kind of a bit schmoozy. And if you're introverted, like I'm naturally an introvert, the idea of going out there and putting yourself out there and talking to strangers is a bit kind of like, ah. um but communities like this, where you don't have to do a sales push, you can just go and just talk to people and be authentic, and then you build up those relationships, and that might come with opportunities. Like, I think that's a far more successful way of integrating networking communities and networking into your business, rather being like, right, I need to go on network and I need to like sell myself. And I don't think that is successful in the long run, but that also might be because I'm an introvert. Some people it might work for, but I don't think that would work for me.
I agree, and actually, the more you kind of, like I say, you can put yourself out in different ways, and actually, the more you kind of do it in your own ways, the doors will open without you having to force them open. And
Mhm.
also, I'm part of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, and
Uh-huh.
they have obviously all different membership platforms there, like opportunities, and a part of that is a mentor program. So also you can get involved and get mentored by someone leading in their industry or whatever, and that's a good way as well if you're trying to find your feet. So I guess you just said about there's lots of changes and there's changes everywhere in digital marketing at the moment, as we know. So how has your kind of freelancing journey changed from when you first started to now? Obviously, there's lots of change, I guess, but what has been the main ones as comes
I
to
think it just that, I mean, I feel like can't really talk about changes without talking about generative AI, which has been a major change in terms of just how to approach a piece of copywriting, because you're not just writing now to target keywords. It's a far more holistic approach. It's like one part of a bigger puzzle, and it's sort of working with clients to see where that puzzle piece fits in their overall holistic marketing strategy. And especially with um, the rise of sort of like query fanning in like generative search engines, and how the way that people are searching now is changing so much. You just need to keep on top of it. I think there are still like some like SEO best practices that are always going to be foundational, which is like writing useful, informative, genuine, authentic content and structuring it in a way that's easy for to pass and easy to read. And sort of thinking of chatbots as approaching it like a human user would approach it, in that like you really need to structure it like as straightforwardly and as logically as possible. So I think those foundational things will remain. There is just how you write and what it is that you're trying to achieve with a piece of content and how that fits in overall. There's going to be there already is like a big shift in that, and I don't see how, if there's going to be like it's never going to revert back to the SEO 5 years ago. um, so you just need to embrace change. And I think especially with something with like AI that can feel so like, oh my God, how does this even work, to um when you first look at it, and then you're just like, oh no, just you just need to sort of break it down a little bit and realize that there are content strategies that you can do, and that like organic traffic might dip, but there are some other visibility benefits and conversion benefits that can come with AI overviews. So it's kind of like changing what your view on what metrics you're starting to look at. And it's just, yeah, it's a big, big shift.
what kind of copy are you working on, like mainly at the moment? What kind of
So I tend to work across like quite a few different industries. Major, like predominantly working with fashion businesses, marketing agencies, and e-commerce. I tend to where the majority of my projects lie within that. And I think e-commerce is going to be really interesting to see how that changes with search in the next year, I think. Because yeah, you can't it's it's gonna be so different.
yeah, the landscape's changed dramatically, hasn't it? And obviously Google are trying to feature more of it on the search result than more than ever. And do
Yeah.
you get any many sort of concerns from your clients in the terms of um, like, the changes in the way that you're writing things, or the way that do they have concerns about generative AI or AI
What?
generally that bring to you?
Not with the clients that I have, but I think by the time clients come to me because I specialize in copywriting. There's often been an SEO content strategy already put in place. So I think these thoughts and decisions um, have already been discussed. And so when it gets to me, they're already like, okay, we just need someone to execute the content and knows how to write for this. But what's interesting is that currently I've been working with some larger clients, but I do have some smaller clients, potential work coming up. And I've got some calls coming up. So it'll be interesting to hear from them what their thoughts are at the moment and how they understand the landscape. And no, and sort of like, and then I can discuss with them sort of like what their objectives is and talk about how search is changing and how that might impact the traffic coming to their site.
I mean, it sounds like you've already, had this in the back of your mind when you've been doing work anyway. But obviously, with the introduction of AI and generative AI and all those large language models, the things like information gain and information density and stuff like seem to be like more important than ever. But it sounds like obviously you were going down that path anyway. But so do you think that yeah, what we're trying to say? Do you think like when you're writing, do you consider these things a bit more than you used to, or has it always kind of been like that? Obviously, like now they're saying, we've seen AI overviews, feature snippets, and obviously large language model results that, cutting the fluff and the jargon out of things, making it more direct, straight to the point around the information. You think, have you adapted the way you do things, or has that always been the case?
I think I have always approached my writing style from when I started to be as accessible as possible. So, um, because my focus has always been to write for humans. And I think that's still as true as ever as it has been. And so I think knowing what the sort of the changes are is obviously useful, but a lot of it was things that I've already sort of kind of always had in the back of my mind of being like, because a lot of it is to do with like how is it that you're communicating information, not just what the information is. And I think there's, if anything, what we're sort of kind of like with these new technological changes that we're seeing is that how information is communicated and structured is more important than ever. And that's something that has always been quite a core of my writing practice. Um, so yes, it is like it is will always continue to be something for me to focus on and that I'm going to like be part of what I do. That it's yeah, like knowing that it's more important than ever is just like yeah.
That's a good thing. I mean, like I was saying, if you've always done that, then these sort of changes shouldn't worry you at all, because if anything, they're trying to get these systems to think and act more like a human. That's the
Mhm.
point, not
Always
fucking
kind of
machine.
validating.
Yeah, it's breath. It's cold laws. If you're already doing that, then you don't really need to change much of what you're doing. But if before you were stuffing in keywords and writing things for the search engines, then you have got problems and you have got to go back and redo your content. So then
Yeah.
that's what it is, I guess. But sounds like, and people are looking to go into copywriting because obviously I've done a lot on this show around
Mhm.
the future of digital marketing jobs and the
Yeah.
rise of AI. And some people say, freelance copywriting jobs are one of those could be at risk from the, from AI. How, like, if people are thinking of going freelance in terms of copywriting or just doing copyright generally, how safe do you feel the industry, your job kind of is in terms of?
I think there was an initial surge in when, especially when ChatGPT became more widely used, of some businesses just going like full force and using it. And then I think there's starting to be a bit of a turning point where they're looking at the results and just being kind of like, ah, maybe this isn't something that we can do without some human intervention. And I think um that I'm definitely not anti AI, because I think it can be an incredibly useful tool. I think it can be extremely useful for analyzing like large data sets, and there is a place for it, but it's never going to fully replace human uh, human writing with successful results. And so I think there was a time when I was like a little bit concerned, but there will always be businesses out there who want to have human writers, because that's a core of the value of what they offer. I think for smaller, um, smaller projects that, some opportunities that are out there that pay very low, um, and that have a lot of competition around them. I think those are the ones that are going to be most at risk with AI, AI copywriting, like, instead. But I think, and from my experience, is that there's still plenty of opportunities out there. It's just a lot about people knowing people who want human copywriter. So it sounds so funny saying that, like, human copywriters are robot copywriters, but there are still plenty of places that want human copywriters because they see the value in that. Um, it's just that they need to be able to find you, um, and that's where networking comes in as well. But I don't think they're as advertised as heavily as the sort of the more, I would say, at risk uh freelance roles are. Those are the ones that you tend to see more of, that I think will reduce in number potentially, um, and have higher levels of competition.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, also I do use AI quite a lot, and you can still tell if it's done by AI versus human, and it is still, even with all the developments, and they are developing rapidly and learning rapidly, I still think it's a way off before they can actually, well, until they actually start feeling any sort of emotions, if that's possible. And yeah, having that tone and that kind of human touch. And I can see, obviously, a lot of people predict that with the influx of AI content, that people will start getting AI content fatigue and then want that human touch again, that human
Absolutely.
discussion.
I think there's just a cadence of writing that AI hasn't perfected yet. That is a very human thing, and it's a conversational thing. And you can see little glimmers of it trying to do it,
Mm.
but it still hasn't reached that conversational point. And I think that conversational style is it's a real point of differentiation between brands. and users want that because users respond to human writing. But yeah, as I said, I'm definitely not anti-AI at all. Like I use it for idea generation sometimes. And just there are so many applications of it. I think it's something that you need to be um considerate about and using it in like as ethical way as possible. But it's here to stay, you know? Like so it's yeah, because yeah, it's something that I incorporate into my workflows. Um but yeah, I never think that you're going to completely rid because it can't replicate human creativity, and that's something like we're getting to like big philosophical stuff now.
Yeah, that's the last thing I go. I like going there, but I know some, I guess that, but that's the thing. We don't know where our creativity comes from. So if there is a form of consciousness that then we can also be, that AI can tap into, then who knows? But we don't
Yeah.
really know where, we
And it
obviously,
feels like Phil on
yeah,
Skynet.
yeah. So we don't know, but,
Uh,
anything's possible. And actually, that's interesting because you brought up a topic there around using it in your workflow. Have you got any examples of how you use it to, like, come up with ideas, or what kind of prompts you may use or anything like that?
I think so. I mean, just sort of like from straight off, I have a Grammarly extension that I use that is, powered on AI technology. And that can be very helpful to make sure that, especially in the early days of writing and you're just kind of like chucking all of your ideas down, that can be helpful and just sort of kind of making things more concise. And then you can go back into it and then be like, okay, so chucked spaghetti at the wall. Let's actually like pull something out of this. And a little bit is to do with yeah, just sort of kind of like idea generation in terms of kind of particular angles to go with certain topics. Or also it can be really useful to excuse me, with something like perplexity. I think that's what it's called. When you're looking for particular sources that aren't as easy to find that you kind of sort of like want to use that you can put into a piece of content. And just also kind of like it could be helpful for taking like temperature tests on certain ideas that or topics that are going around at the moment, so you kind of again that can help you know how to position or angle a piece of content. So it can be helpful for kind of just getting some snapshots to get ideas going before you start writing. Um, and that's how it kind of helps with idea generation, as opposed to like writing in like, give me ideas for that. It's more kind of like, all right, I already have some inklings, but let's see what's going on. And then I can like put something cohesive together.
Yeah, no, that's, it reminded me of my video I did with Bibi, the link builder.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, she did a similar process and walked us through how she kind of did it on ChatGPT and stuff. And yeah, it's a similar process, like you say, so it's really cool. So what's the kind of best and parts of freelancing? What's the most challenging parts of freelancing, would you say?
So I think the best is just the control of the day to day, I think, um, is I personally like really enjoy because with the way that I like to work, I'll have periods of kind of sort of like quite intense focus. But then after that, I'll need to take like an extended break to like get ready to go into in a period of it like of focus, and just being able to spread that out throughout the day and not to feel like you have to like constantly be on, really helps me. And just being able to, it's like the flexibility of it, like, uh, just being able to go to a yoga class in the afternoon. Um, I love that. And just like working with the deadlines in a way that fits into the way that I like to work, and not having a prescriptive way of having to work, I think is really quite liberating. And I think again, it makes work for me more enjoyable, because I'm able to like really focus and really knuckle down when like I'm there and ready to go, and then I can give myself ample time and breaks and not feel bad about it. Most challenging thing is on the flip side of that is like you are relying on yourself. You have to motivate yourself. And there are some days where like it is harder than others. But then I think when those days comes, it's all about strategies and knowing what it is that you can do to help with your motivation. Like for me, I just need to go work somewhere else. Change of environment, change of scenery, and then that like is that normally does the trick. It's, it can be challenging when you start off because you're just kind of like, I have to do all of it. Like, not only am I doing the actual work, but it's also sort of like getting the work and doing all the financial stuff and planning and, all the admin that comes on the sides of it, that, it can become a lot larger scale than you may initially start with, but that can also be quite enjoyable. Um, so yes, you have to sort of, I think, to really enjoy it and to feel like, it's right for you, you have to be able to trust in your own ability to motivate yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with anything. Like I say, I always put it back to like doing a YouTube channel. Like
Yeah.
you have to realize, I'm going to get 10,000 subscribers overnight. It's a long, hard thing. You're going to have to get better at editing. You're going to have to
Well,
get better at talking. You're going to
yeah.
get better, you know, um, putting it all together and then do all the admin around it, contacting people, so on and so forth. What do you think? So, it is a process, but you have to have that vision that you want to get to and understand it takes time. So you're going to have bad days
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
things aren't going to go your way.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you're gonna have projects that are gonna be hard. You're going to have, you know, there might be misunderstandings that come because you're not sharing an office with someone. Like all these things can come up, but um as you go, you just learn how to deal with them. And like you're also human, so remembering to afford yourself a bit of grace, because especially when you're just starting off, because it's just, you know, a whole other way of working.
How do you separate your kind of, doing the work and then also doing the other side, finding new clients or the admin side of it, the financial side of it, all that stuff?
I think I like to sort of set aside some like if it's like depending on what I have in the pipeline and like what my how much I have to do, like client work I have to do. I like to set aside some time either every week or every month to do all my admin stuff. And like sometimes it's like, especially if it's something to do with bookkeeping, which is just like um reconciling stuff, like using like my accountancy software. Could just put a podcast on, sort it out. It's actually quite relaxing. It's something that it's a nice Friday afternoon activity.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. You have to factor in some time. You can't just work on client work, otherwise, like the other sides of your business will just not do well or get done at all.
And 100%, I think that's the thing people forget if they go into the freelance world. So in terms of tools, what are your kind of go-to tools that you use in terms of doing your day-to-day job?
So it sort of kind of depends on what the project is. So depending on what client I work with, either be given a brief that has all of the information I need, including like keyword research, competitive research, or I'm also can help clients develop briefs and like let them know like what it is we need to in order for me to have the information that I need to be able to write a piece of content. So in those particular instances, I really like AlsoAsked. I think that's one of the most useful uh, keyword or key phrase tool. Really, I find that incredibly useful for writing long form content, because just the way that they're also asked are presented is like it's such a great way to get ideas of how to format content and how to answer questions and what questions your content should be answering. So I think that is one of the best tools. I think I already mentioned Grammarly, because yeah, you gotta make sure that what you're writing makes sense. Like, it seems obvious. It's obvious. But when you're so focused on, making certain points, you need to make sure that your grammar is good to go. And then, so I'd say those are the ones that I probably use the most. I tend to not do a lot of keyword research in my copywriting steps, but occasionally I do, and when I do, I either use like SEMrush or Ahrefs for that. Um, but yeah, and then just good old uh Cloud 365 Office Suite, Google Sheets, Google Docs, the good stuff.
Yeah, good. And I don't want to put you in hot water here, but have you ever kind of got a brief and thought, "Oh, this isn't as helpful as it could be," and you know,
Mm,
I went to them and asked some more info and that.
Yeah, I think that because I think it's one of the things that, especially when I started off and I didn't really know to kind of like really how to communicate with clients what I need ahead of time before being able to write something. There was a lot more kind of backwards and forwards of kind of like, could I have this information, please? And like, who's your target audience? And like, what is it you want me to write? But now I have some like processes in place that straight away is like, if you would like me to do this, like this deliverable, this is the data that I need and the information that I need. If you have trouble getting this information or you don't know how to, then uh, talk to me and then we can figure it out together.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was asking for, because I feel like because clients are usually very busy and they try and rush things and get things out, so they just answer things sometimes as briefly as they can just to get it out the door. Um, so it could be the case that, yeah, they don't give you everything you actually need to do the best job you can. So, yeah, maybe if you're new in the sector, you might be a bit more tentative of how you approach that. So, I mean,
Yeah. find if you're able to clearly communicate what it is that you need, or know what it is that you need in order to do something, and just be like, hey, and then also present uh, solutions that if they're not able to do it themselves, um, can be really helpful. Because especially I find that if I'm working with a smaller business who, like, they might not know how to write a copywriting brief because they've never done it before. And of course, how would you know how to write a copywriting brief if you've never done it before? And that's where you can be like, okay, I can walk it through with you and we can like do this together. And I think uh that could, yeah, there's always a solution, there's always a way, but I think sometimes you have to present your client with the solution if you're not able to get what you need to begin with.
Yeah, especially if they're small, a small company, and they probably have zero sort of knowledge of SEO or digital marketing generally. They just sell things and offer a service or a product, and they want it to be seen,
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I think part of your role as a contractor is to be able to explain what it is that you're doing and why you're doing certain things and why you need certain information. So, they can see what it is, so they understand what it is that you're doing. Um, and I think that can like just help the client relationship.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule for anywhere, even in-house, because even I find that I sometimes fail to do that enough. So I need to be important anyway. So your
Yeah.
last few sort of areas. So, if someone tomorrow wants it, we touched upon this a bit already, but if someone wanted to go tomorrow into freelance, um, freelance anything, but especially copywriting, what would you say would be the, day one, what should be the first steps they take and consider and start doing?
I would say first things first is take a nice deep breath, because there are a lot of people with a lot of opinions on how to do freelancing, and they're all shouting quite loudly, and it can be quite overwhelming to know what direction to take and who to listen to and who to trust with their advice. So I would spend the first time, like first kind of instances, if this is something that you really want to do, which is great, like good on you, is to figure out like why it is you want to go freelancing, what it is that are the things that come with it that you are looking to like make the most of, whether it's to do with flexibility, whether it's to do like financially or whatever, and think about like how you can work that into what it is that you can offer. It's not just kind of being like, I have to sort of like throw everything in it in one go and offer all the things and hope someone will find me and book me for a job. Um, it's sort of like taking the time to carefully kind of consider um how it is that you want to work, what it is that you want to do. As you said earlier, you don't have to niche down straight away. You don't have to sort of like almost like come fully formed, have your freelancing services fully formed yet. But like just take the time to kind of sort of like figure out what your kind of end goals are. Because I think it'll just help you kind of structure your strategy and how to get clients and figuring out what works for you. I think Another thing, and like I know that I sort of said this earlier, is like networking is so important, because referrals can make a big difference, especially at the beginning before you start getting your own direct requests for work. Those referrals can really like boost up your profile and boost up your portfolio, and then that can lead to referrals. So yeah, definitely networking, but don't go into networking expecting to get work straight away. Go into because people can just tell that um people who are networking want to network with people in the industry because they want to make connections and build relationships with people, not necessarily because they want to find or give work. So you need to sort of be like relaxed about it. I think it's sort of understanding that it's something that doesn't happen overnight, and that it will take a bit of work. But you know, if you
Definitely.
yeah, it is. And like if you're your authentic self and that you present yourself in your authentic self, then that's the best thing that you can do. Um and yeah, just give yourself grace. And I would say also before you go freelance, like having a little um bit of money saved, especially for the first 6 months.
I was
Be-
gonna say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, especially as you're building stuff, I would even like think about whether you're able to do a tiny bit of freelance work if you're able to on the side with your employed job before you go fully freelance, and whether that's you can do that like part time and sort of kind of like transition. Um, yeah, and another thing I would say is like don't panic. There are lots of people out there who want to see you succeed. There are lots of people out there who want to help you, um, that are excited by people who work for themselves and are interested in what it is that you have to offer. Um, so yeah, it's all about reaching out to people and community and all that lovely stuff. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, great points. And I think on that, I think as I mentioned before, don't run before you can walk. Things will take time. Like I say with this channel, I set myself very small goals that I want to reach, and then once I reach that, then I work out the next target and so on and so forth. I'm not going to say 1 million subscribers and then try and you know progress 1 or 2% every couple of years. It's pointless. I get to that target. Once I've achieved that, I can work onto something else and not
Yeah.
try and, because it's a learning process, and you're going to make loads of mistakes like I do all the time. And you have to learn from, you're going to keep progressing, hopefully. And, yeah, so don't get carried away. And also I think knowing your value, I've seen a lot of people do freelance. Like sometimes you will have to take like I don't think that sometimes taking work for a smaller rate or for even for free sometimes can help build your portfolio, and it's not the end of the world if you've got the capacity to do so. That's but obviously once you start getting into the real nitty gritty, don't I undersell yourself just so you can get loads of work, because in the long run you won't be happy.
You'll burn yourself out as well. And it's like, I think it's being realistic about the amount of work that you're able to do in a given time and, still have time to live as well. Striking that balance can be really hard, especially if you go into a bit of a scarcity mindset. That means that you can end up kind of taking on more work than you're able to do, uh, which will never ends well. I think another thing to sort of kind of to think is that like the seasonal ebbs and flows. So there'll be some parts of the year where you'll have more work than others. Um, and it's just that's part of like freelance, like things will kind of like go up and down, but that's okay if you plan for it and you anticipate that because I find that I get more inquiry at certain points in the year than at quieter months, and then those quieter months are when I tend to take time off. I go on holiday because I don't I'm not needed as much. So sort of like anticipating that. It's very important to give yourself breaks, by the way, for everyone, not just self-employed, employed people as well. Take breaks. It's very important for your brain. But yeah, I think
Absolutely.
yeah, it's all kind of like realizing that things aren't going to be level. Well, they're not, but like for the majority of people, things aren't level. But that's okay. That is the nature of freelancing, and you sort of kind of have to adapt to that. It took me a little while to kind of get used to that. Mm, but I started realizing that the same pattern happens every year. And it's like, oh yeah, it's seasonality really, because it's when, departments get marketing budgets and stuff like that. And then it's like, oh yeah, it's the same every year. It's fine.
That's a great point. And, and just on the vanity thing, I was thinking like, if you get quotes from a builder and some of them are like extraordinarily high and you're just like, that's too high. But then you get some mid-price ones, and then you get some extremely low ones. You're going to start thinking, well, those low ones may seem attractive because it's quite a low price, but the quality, you're going to really question if their quality is anywhere near as good. So you usually go in the middle.
Yeah.
That's, you shouldn't undersell yourself in terms of pricing. And yeah,
Absolutely, because also you run the risk of if you price yourself too low, then you're going to have to basically do more low paid work in order to get to the financial goals that you have. So not only are you going to run yourself ragged, um, but the quality of what you're doing, it might not be that good because you're having to do so much and kind of almost turning yourself into like a copywriting machine, which is, you know, not what you want. Like you want to be able to enjoy what you're doing and deliver something that you're proud of, not because you're just worried about deadlines.
yeah, 100%. Just to finish off the last question, I guess, looking into the future, where do you see your industry, copywriting, freelancing generally? We discussed it a bit, but definitely copyright side. Where do you see that in the next few years evolving in terms of like, well, we got the emergence of AI and such?
I think there's going to be an interesting shift in content marketing overall with I think it's gonna be like EAT, like but like even more intensely. So, I think that people are going to be or businesses are going to be looking for writers who are genuine experts in certain areas to write about certain topics in order to qualify for that, and demonstrate genuine expertise as opposed to sort of like looking at the first line of Wikipedia. It's a particular topic. I think that's something that's going to happen. So, that can be a really exciting time for freelance copywriters who are really interested in a particular field, um, or just have knowledge outside of maybe that they're currently doing copywriting projects in, but you know, can bring forward and use that for projects and say this is a service that I'm able to offer. So I think that will be really, I think it will be interesting to see like how that develops. And I think with that is the opportunity of kind of like doing more learning and doing some more kind of like deep dives and topics and industries, which I personally find really exciting. I love a good like little research project. Um, so I can kind of see my practice and my services kind of going down that end a little bit more, sort of more kind of um, leaning even further into sort of uh, deeper dives and sort of like interviews and things like that um, to give clients what they need as opposed to more kind of like top line pieces. Um, so yeah, but I mean, who knows? Gosh, in the next 5 years, with the way that like technology is developing now, like it's anyone.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right. I think the more, as we said about information gain, I think that's going to be even more strong in terms of like incorporating unique expert insights into content, unique statistics and data that no one else can really pick up, and that kind of thing. Because everything else can be just generated with AI. So if you don't have that uniqueness, then anyone can answer what's the capital of Egypt and how many, how about the River Nile and all that stuff. That's easy. But if you've got raw data or expert insights, then it makes it completely different. Right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's going to be a pivot to that, which is exciting and interesting.
It's better. I think it's actually better.
Oh, right.
As long as as long as I get swamped by AI,
Yeah,
if people make that turn, I think the content on the internet will be better.
I I agree. I agree. I think the output will be that this human output will be just far richer and interesting and um something that will benefit from.
It's just the way people are digesting content. It's just making us a bit more lazy than obviously we used to be. But
Yeah, but maybe this is a switch in the opposite direction.
yeah. But yeah, no, I won't take any more time. I really appreciate you joining me today. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, this has been really enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Thank you.